Howdy, partners. Welcome back to another episode of Knockout Analysis presented by Cronio Media. I'm your host, Ethan Chronister. Cosplaying this week is Ilia Topuria, and this is your co-host, Mr. Whit Barnes, who for the second time is cosplaying as Felipe Lima, the fraud checker, and Frank Ocean's husband's Alpha. That being said, UFC Baku Fight Night has come and gone. Can't lie, the card was kind of mid. A lot of decisions as accurately predicted by one and only Mr. Whit Barnes. I think the whole card had 2 finishes on it.
And one absolute war.
Yeah.
An absolute banger.
Yeah, that Mato fight was a banger. The 75 punch combo heard around the world that ended up getting him knocked out because he gassed out. And then Whit's namesake from last week, Tofik, got choked out in the first round by the Neanderthal Khabib. So, that being said, we're now moving on to a pay-per-view card. UFC 317 International Fight Week in Las Vegas. Topuria versus Oliveira. This is going to be a pretty decent card, I do believe, if I say so myself. So, without further ado, we will slingshot ourselves. Well, you know what? First, give us some of your thoughts on the Baku card.
Baku card, Nazim Sadikov, great fight. I deserved that $100,000 they got. Tafik Musayev, in the city he was born in his UFC debut, got brutally Kimura'd. Very tough scene for him. And the Jamal Hill fight, Khalil fight, kind of underwhelming. Khalil did what he needed to win, 49-46, 50-45, whatever you want to do there. It was a dominant victory. Fucking Jamal Hill pretty much walked up to Khalil after the fight and said, "Why didn't you let me hit you?" Like, of course he's going to be defensive and all that against a power puncher like Jamal Hill. Pretty underwhelming card. I like the Viziev fight. But, this week we got International Fight Week. I can almost guarantee you that this card will start out with 2 finishes.
That being said, we'll slingshot ourselves right into the first one. Our first fight up, we have Niko Price facing off against Jacoby Smith. This one is, on paper, a huge mismatch. You have Jacoby Smith, nicknamed himself Kobe. He's a southpaw fighting out of Fortis MMA. He is 10-0 in his pro career, 8 of those 10 wins coming by way of knockout. He's 1-0 in the UFC, came out of Fury Fighting Championship. He won his UFC debut by first round knockout and won by knockout in his Contender Series fights. Huge knockout power coming from this young feller here, standing at 6'2", 170 pounds. He is facing Niko Price with a 16-8 record. 10 of his 16 wins by way of knockout, 3 of his 16 wins by way of submission. He is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, all UFC fights. Lost his last fight in October of 2024 by way of unanimous decision. Not a great track record for him. Unfortunately, it looks like he was probably the only one that was signed this contract because he needs the fight. So I got first round knockout for our friend Jacoby Smith.
Yeah, Jacoby Smith, Fortis MMA, home of Alonzo Minifield, India Jeshiku, Ryan Spann, and many, many more. He's decent little gym that he's coming out of. Also a former Oklahoma State wrestler. And this pedigree within the name of that institution's wrestling. A lot of MMA fighters come out here and they train there. They go through fight camps and they try to get better at that.
Just there.
He was there, and I really like him as a prospect. I think the rankings could be in his future. The UFC is trying to prop him up with this matchup because I find it to be beyond favorable for him. Niko Price is a seasoned veteran, but he's definitely been on a downward trajectory, to say the least. Getting knocked out by 41-year-old Robbie Lawler in his retirement fight. Losing grappling matches recently as well. Thimba Garimbo, not a horrible loss to drop, but Thimba Garimbo is an unranked guy. We gotta be real about it. And the Alex Morano win, I believe I've talked about this specific fight a few times. Alex Morano's not very good, and he did not look like an MMA fighter, a UFC fighter especially. Alex Morano didn't, despite being a pretty sizable favorite. Was gassed out after the first round of that fight. It was kind of unbelievable how he didn't get finished by Niko. But Niko is a seasoned veteran, but I kind of view this, and so do the odds makers. We both kind of view this as a sanctioned execution. I don't think this makes it to the second. If it does make it to the second, then I think there's going to be a finish early within that round. I can very much see a knockout. If this goes to the ground, I mean, I'm not going to pick a submission here. I think it's just going to be a knockout or a ground and pound TKO. Or maybe Jacoby hits Nico so hard he doesn't fucking move and has a highlight moment to begin this card. There will be a finish after the 2 finishes, lackluster amount of finishes last week. Give me Jacoby by whatever he wants.
That'll spring us into our next fight. Fight number 2 on the card. We have heavyweights battling. We have Jonata Denise versus Alvin Hines. This is another fight in the heavyweight division. We get 2 back-to-back in this one. We started off the last card with a heavyweight fight, so that was an interesting one. But looking at this, we have Denise, who, I mean, the way that these fights are set up on these websites is all interesting because on UFC they still have Denise fighting Tafa. On ESPN they have Payton Talbot in the main card, or they have Payton Talbot in the prelims, and then on the Tapology they have Payton Talbot as the 8th fight of the night in the main card. So I'm not really sure what to believe anymore.
Somebody's fucking lying. I think that Talbot Lima fight's going to be on the pay-per-view, though.
So I'm just going to go off of Tapology then here. So Denise's last fight lost doctor stoppage to Marcin Tybura in November of 2024. He houses an 8-1 record. 7 of his 8 wins have come by way of knockout. He will be facing an absolute goober-looking individual by the name of Alvin Hines. He's 7-0, 3 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. Came from LFA, won his last fight by 3rd-round knockout. And I mean, I don't know. I'd say if you're a betting man here, I don't really know which way you would bet. I probably would bet on the UFC guy that's fought 3 times in the UFC against the guy that hasn't fought in the UFC. So I'll pick Denise to win this fight by 3rd-round knockout.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jonata Denise. The UFC's been wanting to push him for some time. He was supposed to fight Derek Lewis last year, but the fight fell through, and he got put in there with Marcin Tybura, who really exposed him on the ground. Ended up being a doctor stoppage, a massive cut on his face. One of the first cards where the 12-6 elbow was legal, and Marcin Tybura absolutely obliged us by landing them repeatedly. So there's plenty of questions about Denise's grappling, but Marcin Tybura, I view him as a pretty high-level grappler, especially at the heavyweight level. Alvin Hines, I believe I watched one of his LFA fights, so I'd be throwing LFA on, while I'm doing some chores late in the night, doing laundry or just hanging out. So I believe I saw the Billy Ray Valdez fight. He has looked pretty decent on the ground, which makes it a little sketchy if you want to bet on Jonata Denise, but I think that's something he has worked on since that loss he took. He has UFC experience. He's been in there with a guy like Tybura. He is absolutely going to have an advantage on the feet with his kickboxing pedigree. I am going to pick him. I feel like it'd be foolish to pick otherwise. He did open as a -800 favorite according to fight odds, but he is now like a -200, which I think is a much more respectable line. I'm leaning towards Denise. I could see a mid-sec round, early 3rd-round KO from him. Alvin Hines does seem pretty durable with never taking a loss or being finished. But I think Denise, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Denise.
That'll move us on to the next fight. We have the felon himself, Sajike Dumas, fighting UFC newcomer Jackson McVeigh. Jackson McVeigh is 6-0 in his professional career. In his pro career, he has had 0 fights make it out of the 1st round, and he has, in those 6 fights, he has 6 victories and, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 finishes. He has 1 decision victory in his entire career, including amateur, and he has 1 loss in his entire career, including amateur. He lost by armbar in 41 seconds to NLFA back in 2020. He has been in the LFA for the last couple years. He bounced back and forth between LFA and Shamrock FC. He's no slouch. He's definitely very good with the jiu-jitsu, it seems. Facing off against Cedric Dumas, who we all know the story of last fight. earlier this year, 314. Took a left hook, took a few ground strikes, and wasn't really defending himself, so the referee stepped in, and a lot of fans were unhappy about it. But at the end of the day, the last thing that the ref says to you before every fight is defend yourself at all times, or else I will stop it. And he didn't defend himself, and it got stopped. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about this one. I like Jackson McVeigh in this one. I'm going to give him the fight. I'm going to say he wins by punches in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to watch some more Jackson McVeigh film. Seems pretty intriguing, especially with his professional run he's had, just knocking everybody out. It's no surprise that the UFC would want to bring in a guy with the finish streak, especially early like this. Cedric Dumas, he has gone against some dangerous guys and has been able to extend the fight and take them to decision in which he is able to out-volume them. A loss to Josh Shrimp looks absolutely terrible, but Abu Zaitar, Cody Brundage, not the highest level of guys, but quite dangerous. He was able to out-volume and get him to decision. Dennis Tululin's another low-level guy, but out-volumed him, got him to the decision. But Nursultan Ruzaboyev, Oleksiejczuk, they're decent. They're really decent. They have a lot of power. Oleksiejczuk was able to do what Kron just previously alluded to at 314, and Ruzaboyev has been on a very nice streak here in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. I expect him to have another fight somewhere down the line here as well. I believe he's been scheduled against Brian Battle, so we'll see how that one goes. But Jackson McVeigh, I think he's a little green. I think he wants to finish the fight early, and if he doesn't, he's going to be in trouble. This is a big stage for him. It's a short notice fight. You're going against a guy that has quite a few UFC fights, Cedriquez, Dog Cage Haver Dumas. So I think Dumas is going to be able to play the long game in this one, as long as he doesn't get caught early. I could see him pulling off a decision in this one. Wouldn't be too surprised if Jackson McVeigh is able to land a damaging strike that sends him to the canvas, but I'm going to rock with the UFC vet here and the 15-time felon, Cedric Dumas, to get a decision.
Speaking of felons, good riddance, John Jones.
See you, Jonathan.
We'll move on to the next one here. 16-7, Terrence McKinney will be facing against, how in the fuck, Vyacheslav Borshev. Terrence McKinney, 16-7 pro record. He won his last fight. Punches from back mount is the most egregious thing I've ever heard in my life, but that's how he won his last fight. Punches from back mount. He lost his last two fights before that. Well, one of them I guess you can't really count. It was a grappling match. He lost that one in round one by crossface submission, and then his last UFC fight he lost in May of last year before that punches from back mount victory. He lost by 37 seconds into the first round, getting knocked out by a head kick, which is incredibly unfortunate. He is facing off against 8-5-1 Borshev. This guy is coming off of a loss in his last fight in the UFC to Tommy Nolan. Coach Nolan, what are you doing in the UFC, big dog? Before that, he beat James Lollipop by a split decision, and he lost to the Gooner via Darce choke, the Gooner being Chase Hooper. I don't got a whole lot to say about this mid-off here. I'll just stick with I don't even know. I'll stick with the line, I guess. I'm going with Terrence McKinney.
Yeah, I mean, we got Terrence, Jameis Winston, McKinney in this fight. He's kind of an all-or-nothing fighter. You football fans will kind of know what I mean when I say Jameis Winston McKinney, because out of his 23 fights, they have all been by finished. He has finished all of his 16 wins, and he has been finished in his 7 losses. He's been knocked out in 5 of them, submitted in 2 of them. This guy just kind of goes there, and his goal is to finish it in the first round. And, he lost a lot of his aura based off his last 2 fights before the Hadzovic win. Damir Hadzovic is not very good, to say the least.
But is not aura maxing.
Yeah, he is absolutely not. Damir, probably not a UFC level fighter, to say the least. He's lost to a bunch of lower level guys, and Terrence McKinney did make quick work of him. A lot of people were saying before that fight that I don't think there's a lot of people Terrence McKinney can beat a lightweight, because there is a clear pathway to beating him, and that's pretty much just make it out of the first round, and you can get a finish on him and be on your merry way, maybe even get a performance bonus. But I will say, Slava Borshev, good fighter, very well-rounded, but he has found his way to losing quite a few fights, especially recently. Tom Nolan in Australia, UFC 312. He lost to the Gooner, Mark Giacchese, Mike Davis, Hamas Yontop, and oh, Mashate. That's his full God-given name. Yeah, not the most high level of guys, but so I think this is a guy that Terrence McKinney can go out and beat pretty early. I don't think that Slava Borchev is going to be able to put a pace on Terrence McKinney. Terrence McKinney was going to put the pace on you. He's going to impose his will early. Is he going to get a finish in the first round? I don't know. Slava Borchev is a difficult guy to get out of there. He does have a decent enough chin. He has been submitted by Gunnar Hooper, but, I think that Borchev has a good enough chin. You know what? I was going to pick Terrence McKinney, but based off the fact that this guy's only been finished once and it was by sub, I think he's going to be able to weather the storm against Terrence McKinney. I think he's going to make history here, and he's going to take Terrence McKinney to the decision victory. He's going to be the first person to take Terrence McKinney to decision. Slava Borchev. I'm going to rock with him.
That'll move us to the next one. We have number 8 ranked Vivian Arroyo facing off 10th ranked Tracy Cortez. This will be in the women's flyweight division. I see here, coming off of her last fight, she won via unanimous decision. John Jones's last fight, actually. Again, farewell, Mr. Before that, she lost to Natalia Silva, and before that, so she's 2-1 in her last 3 fights here. She is facing off again the American Tracy Cortez. Cortez in her last fight took a loss to Rose Namajunas. That would be her last fight. Before that, she lost to Jazz Duvicius, and that's the last time she fought. So she hasn't fought since July of last year, almost a full calendar year layoff here. Women's fights, I never really spend a whole lot of time on them. I do know that there is an ad going on right now on Instagram. Don't know if you've seen it, where you're able to take a chance and sign up for a Jose Cuervo giveaway, and it's supposed to give you like a full night to hang out with Tracy Cortez, which I think is a really, really bad idea anyways, because you never know who's going to get to hang out with her. But it's like the whole ad is like a thing where it's like it shows her drinking, it's showing like you can train with her, and then it shows her like throwing it back at the club. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? This is like, so now we have confirmed a OnlyFans model in the UFC and Aline Perez. And now we have a club thrower backer, Tracy Cortez, for Jose Cuervo. So I don't really know what the hell's going on in women's MMA. I guess they're just trying to garner male interest in the sport. Doesn't work for me, however. I got Vivian Arroyo to win this fight by submission.
Tracy, Jose Cuervo, Cortez, man. Who would have thought, I mean, that does beg the question, how serious is she really taking this? She has beaten some really good names. Jasmine Jasudavicius.
I want to see if I can find it. Keep talking. I'm going to see if I can find it.
Jasmine Jasudavicius is on a tear right now. She is probably a win away from a title shot, and Tracy Cortez is beating her. She's won a lot of fights here earlier in her career in the UFC, and Rose Namajunas was her biggest fight, and she got dominated in it from what I remember. I believe I watched that card. I think it was like a 49-46, 50-45 type of decision. And Vivian Arroyo, I was watching that John Jones card. That fight was dumb because the Silva lady she was fighting kept trying to pull guard and pretty much gave her the fight based off just looking like complete shit, to be honest. Natalie Silva, Amanda Ribas, Alex Grasso, those are some higher level names in this division, and I put some respect on it. But Tracy Cortez, based off what I know now, the fact that you're doing a Jose Cuervo sweepstakes and you haven't been nearly as active, I think I'm going to have to fade you in this fight. I think I'm going to have to. I'm going to go with a decision for Arroyo. I think she's going to have an advantage in the grappling here. And I want to take her for a 29-28 decision. And Kron has found the ad for the interested gooners. There you go. Jose Cuervo.
See if it'll replay. There she is, throwing it back in the club, training.
That's diabolical. Ain't no women going to sign up for that, dude. Like 1% of the people that sign for that are going to be like 40-year-old men. I guarantee you.
Probably 40-year-old rapist. Anyways, we're on to the next one. We have Hyder Emil facing off against Jose Delgado, the American on American crime that we have going on here. Emil is undefeated in his pro MMA career. Last fight was a split decision win against William Gomez in March of this year. He's facing off against, I just said, Jose Delgado, coming off of a win in his last fight via first round knockout of Connor Matthews earlier this year as well. Before that, he won in the Contender Series via knee to the head in round 2. So this would be an interesting fight, I'm sure. Couple guys fighting for their UFC livelihood here, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick with my gut on this one. I'm gonna pick Hyder Emil even though he is the underdog via ESPN. So I'm gonna pick the underdog in this one to keep his undefeated streak alive.
I mean, Hyder Emil's been on one, man. I can't even sleep on him. It was said via Twitter, via a source, that he was supposed to get like a shot like near the rankings or like in the rankings, but pretty much everybody's booked and people were declining him. And he just wanted to stay active, so he did take Jose Delgado under those pretenses or whatever. But the Ji Young Lee, we've mentioned this guy a few times. We talked about him when he faced Willie Cat. He is the fabled 60-punch CV from Hyder Emil. And then William Gomez, was very happy to see William Gomez lose that fight. Keep in mind, for everybody watching, he was an underdog in both those fights. He was like a 2.5 to 1 underdog against Ji Young Lee. He was around the same against William Gomez, and he's about a plus 125 right now. And it might have to do with age, but I don't really care, man. At this point, for Hyder Emil, age is just a number, man. He's going out there and he's styling on everybody. He's in the prime of his career. He hasn't taken a lot of damage. He's never been finished. He's never lost, right? And yeah, you got a Contender Series guy that won in round 2. And then he has a win against Connor Matthews, man. Connor Matthews isn't really that good. And will this fight be absolute fireworks? Will it be entertaining? Hell yeah, it will. I hope people are in the arena for this fight because it's going to be an absolute banger. I think this one does have fight of the night potential written all over it. I'm picking Hyder Emil until he loses. I'm picking him until he loses. I think there could be a stoppage in this fight. I think there could be. I think there is potential for it. I would say it's going to be a little bit later on. I think a third round TKO is in Hyder Emil's future. If not, I think it's going to be a very close split decision fight and an absolute banger.
That'll move us on to the next fight. We have Jack the Joker Hermanson, facing Gregory Rodriguez. This fight here in the middleweight division, Mr. Joker Man is coming off of a 5-round decision victory versus Joe Pyfer. His 2 fights that he was supposed to have before Joe Pyfer got canceled. His last fight before those, he lost to Roman Dolidze via ground and pound TKO. And before that, he beat Chris Curtis. And before that, he lost to Sean Strickland and Khamzat Chimaev. Sean Strickland, a former champion. Khamzat Chimaev will be a champion, but that was a wrestling fight that he lost, like a Bulldog Fight Night wrestling card. So, I mean, he's got a pretty good resume, does Mr. Joker here. Faced some pretty good guys. Facing off against Gregory Rodriguez, who's 16-6, calls himself RoboCop. Coming off of a 4th round knockout loss to Jared Cannonier in his last fight earlier this year. And before that, he beat Christian Leroy Duncan, Brad Tavares, and Dennis Toluian, all via 2 via finish, 1 via decision. So this will be an interesting fight as well. It appears that Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop, is the slight favorite in this one, but I'm going to take the underdog once more here, and I'm going to take Hermanson.
Jack Hermanson. People forget, man. You know, this guy, he's very well-rounded, great on the ground, very unorthodox striking style on the feet, and he came out of the woodwork to absolutely style on Joe Pyfer. Won the last 3 rounds after dropping the first 2 in that fight, and I think Gregory Rodriguez is the same archetype of the Joe Pyfer is, and you saw it in the last fight. You know, I picked Cannonier to beat Rodriguez for one reason only. He gasses out super early in his fights. He tries to throw the kitchen sink at you. He did knock out Cannonier down twice, but he will gas himself out to do it. He will throw with a lot of power. And that's why I don't think he's ever going to be able to push his way up the rankings unless finds a way to be a little bit more conservative against this higher level of competition. I like Jack Hermanson. I think he's going to drop the first round. I think he wins the next two, maybe even get a late knockout in this one with the cardio. So I'm going to take him via 29-28 decision, give him a little bit of a people forget performance. Man, I hope he can be more active. I hope he can be more active here. He's a little bit later in his career. He's taken about one fight a year at this point, so he needs to be a little bit more active, especially if he wants to make another run, or maybe he just wants some, fights that are entertaining to him at this point in his career. So we'll see about it, but I'm going to take him 29-28, Jack Hermanson, the Joker.
Go ahead, Whit.
I've been waiting my whole life for this one. So Payton Talbot, man, we'll start there, was like one of the most overhyped fighters, man. But even I didn't pick him to lose to 37-year-old Renato Barcelos 30-26 decision. He's been knocking out a bunch of lower-level guys. Cameron Simon, decent, but obviously doesn't have a whole lot of power based off his last few performances. Giannis Gamori got cut as soon as he got knocked out in 19 seconds. And then you have Nick Aguirre. He was knocking out like these lower-level guys, and people were coming out of the woodworks pretty much saying Payton Talbot's this natural fighter, and they'd be pulling up his regional fights talking about how he was this prince that was promised, pretty much like he was going to absolutely destroy the UFC. But Renato Barcelos, this 37-year-old man, sunned him on the ground for 15 minutes, essentially. Sunned him on the ground, sunned him in the wrestling, which I think is heavily ironic that Payton Talbot is a bad wrestler. But Felipe Lima, I mean, there's not a whole lot that I can't say about him at this point. If you'll watch the rankings video, I gave him a few seconds of respect, put him in those rankings. A lot of people might think that's a little bit preemptive, and that's fine. But Muhammad Naimov was able to get that finish early. And Miles Johns, man, is a veteran. He's a great, great fighter at bantamweight. And I have to put a lot of respect on that victory. I think Miles Johns would absolutely own Payton Talbot. I think Naimov would get Talbot problems as well. I think this is a step down in competition for Felipe Lima, who's going to have a huge advantage on the ground. But Payton Talbot does have power, and if he lands one shot, he can send you to the floor. But I think Felipe Lima is way too good everywhere for Payton Talbot. I think he's a true mixed martial artist, and I see a finish in the second round by submission for him.
I'm going to keep it real simple. If you take Frank Ocean's dick, I don't pick you to win fights. I got Felipe Lima by whatever he wants, and we're on to the next one. We have Beneil Dariush facing up against Renato Easy Money Moicano. Why do we call him Easy Money? I don't even know what he calls himself. I don't want tough fights. Give me Patty Pimblett, Easy Money. Give me Dan Hooker, Easy Money. Stop giving me tough fights. I want easy money fights. And then immediately get paired up with Islam Makhachev or Makhachev. That's unfortunate for you. Too bad you're a fucking bozo, and I don't feel bad for you. Beneil Dariush by whatever he wants, in whatever round he wants. Unk of the year.
Yeah, and I see a knockout for Beneil in this fight. A lot of people forget about him. After his last two losses, he got knocked out by Arman Tsarukyan, who I will briefly touch on in this title fight. And he lost to Oliveira, who is also in this current title fight.
I will not briefly touch on in the title fight.
Yeah, but those are two of the biggest names. At one point, Beneil was one of those wins away from potentially fighting Islam. Obviously, he didn't get it done. And Renato Moicano, great personality. People love him. But I think he has been very heavily overrated by the general public. And it's because of the Benoit Saint-Denis performance. Let's just get that out of the way. Benoit Saint-Denis, especially after his performance against Prepolek, a guy who I think that anybody in the top 15 finishes in half a round, looked absolutely slow and lethargic in that fight that he had been preparing for some time. And Benoit Saint-Denis in his motherland got absolutely mauled. Could have been a 10-7 round. I mean, Benoit Saint-Denis, I'm just going to cut the rest of it out, man. I don't think he's that great of a fighter. And everybody was acting like Renato Moicano deserved like a title shot after that. And he got his title shot, and he got predictably choked out within the round against Islam Makhachev. I don't think Renato Moicano is a top 10 fighter in this division, truthfully. I think Alvarez below him could beat him. I think Grant Dawson below him could beat him. Shit, he might not be a top 15 if I go down this list. But this is not what this is about. I think Beneil Dariush is a much high-level fighter. I think he's going to be better on the ground. I think he's going to be better with the hands. I think the only way he loses this fight if he comes out and he's just completely fucking washed, which is a possibility because he has been out of the ring or the octagon for some time. But I am going to take him to have a people forget performance here and get a second round KO.
I'm gonna let you do the rest of these as the starter, so go ahead. These are all 3 Whit Barnes level fights.
See, this one, man, I'm very conflicted. Shout out Brandon Royval. I'm very conflicted. These are 2 of my favorite fighters right now. Both these dudes go out there and they put on absolute performances. They put on shows. Brandon Royval was initially supposed to fight Manel Kape, but Manel Kape broke his foot being a fool. And I picked Brandon Royval about a year ago. No, it was in October against Tsuru Tairo when she was a massive underdog for whatever reason. So any of y'all want some money off that, thank Vegas for that free money because that was an absolutely awful line. It was as bad as that Bo Nickel line was to me. Unbelievable. And he's a minus 120 in this one. I think that line's pretty warranted. I think this is a pretty even fight because you are going against a young and up-and-comer active fighter like Josh Van. If Josh Van wins this fight, there's no question about who is going to fight for the flyweight title next. He is exciting. He is young. He is active. He is absolutely adored by fans. But this is a major step up in competition for him. He has not fought anybody in flyweight at this level. Bruno Silva, you already know my opinion on him. We talked about him very recently. Race Rui is a wrestling type. Cody Durden got absolutely starched in front of his home country after pumping up the crowd about 2 weeks ago. I respect Cody Durden though. He's a good fighter. But
got dropped like an absolute sack of weights.
Indeed. And this is a tough fight for me to pick because Josh Van will put on a pace, but Brandon Royval will take you down. I think because of the striking and the wrestling that Royval possesses, it's going to be much more difficult for Josh Van to be able to use his brick wall takedown defense because I believe he will get taken down a time or 2 in this fight, and how he is able to get up and how he's able to react to that will determine how this fight goes. I don't necessarily think there's going to be a finish in this one. I think these guys are too high of a level to let themselves be finished. If there is one, I think it will be on the Royval side. I think he could catch Josh Van like Charles Johnson caught him at one point when he's coming forward too much, and Royval will use his boxing acumen to exploit that. But I'm going to pick a very close decision here. I think this is going to be a split decision type fight. Brandon Royval 29-28 is where I lean.
Yeah, I'm torn on it too. Royval, great fighter. Josh Van, great fighter. It's a tough one here, but I think I'm going to lean to the side of Josh Van on this one, simply due to activity. He's still in fight mindset right now because he just fought, 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Hell yeah.
He went to decision. He's probably been in camp ever since, hasn't come out of camp. I think he's going to be in better shape. I think he's going to have better cardio. I think he's going to win this fight. Probably, if it's either going to be by late TKO or he's going to win by decision. I'm going to say something crazy. I think he 30.
Jeez, that would be absolutely banger. Star would be born if he does something like that, and I'm here for it with Joshua Van.
Face cam just randomly decides it wants to go out of focus.
Fuck a face cam. But without further ado, we're sticking with the flyweights here, man. Shout out to the UFC for putting 2 flyweight fights on the main card, man. Put some respect on these guys' names. We have Alexandre the Cannibal Pantoja versus KKF Kai Kara France, who had an upset victory in his last fight over Steve Erceg. Absolutely shocked me. Kai Kara France does have the massive equalizer in his game, and that is his power. He probably has the best power at flyweight right now. He's knocked out Cody Garbrandt. He's knocked out Rogerio Boterin. He's had some other ones somewhere down here. I'm missing one. Oh, yeah, Steve Erceg. He knocked out in the first round in Steve Erceg's motherland, even though Kai Kara is New Zealand, so you could claim that was also a home turf fight for him as well. And it was an impressive performance. A lot of people don't think he lost the Albazi fight. I think it was close and could have gone either way. I was leaning 3-2 Albazi, unpopular opinion. Pantoja, he is known for having a chin, does have great cardio in the early rounds, and that's usually where he wins his fights, is rounds 1, 2, and 3. He'll put a pace on you, and pretty much is going to be nothing you can do about it between the wrestling and the volume and the striking. Where I've seen him have his weaknesses, though, is the later rounds. Like a guy like Marab would give him major problems. I don't think I would like to see the fight, but I think the outcome is kind of predictable for it, truthfully, because his cardio in the later rounds doesn't look as good. But a lot of people, because of the pace of the first 3 rounds, their gas tank is about the same level as he is. And I think he's going to be able to implement the game plan he normally does. And I think he's going to win the first 3. Kai Kara is going to have lost a lot of his power by then, and it's going to be too late for him to really implement much more. This has been an absolute historic flyweight run for Pantoja. He needs to have another dominant performance here, and I think he will get a fight in bantamweight against Marab if he wins this one, especially in dominant fashion on this pay-per-view. You've beaten Royval already. You've beaten Moreno already. You won against Steve Erceg. You knocked out Japanese superstar Kaya Sakura, or you choked him out in the second round. I think if he gets a finish here, it could very well be a super fight in our future, ladies and gentlemen. And even though he's 36, and usually in these weight classes, these guys do get caught around this age, I don't think it's going to happen for Pantoja. I think he's ready for the power. I think he has an absolute iron chin, especially with the flying knee he took in the last fight against Kaya Sakura. I think he's going to be able to avoid the power early, and I could see a submission finish here late in the fight. I'm going to go 4th round submission. Alejandro Pantoja, he defends once more, and I think he's going to look for a big fight if he's able to pull that off.
Now, Pantoja has not lost a fight since 2020, but the guy that he lost his last fight to, Kaya beat him via unanimous decision. So that could be an interesting tidbit. Really, Kai Kara France ain't going to have nothing for him, unfortunately. I'm with Witt on this one. I think that Pantoja is going to win this fight in usual Pantoja fashion and probably get hornswoggled by Maram Divashwali sometime soon, and we'll see what happens from there. But we're on to the last one, Mr. Barnes.
Man, this is a beautiful fight. This is a fight that a lot of people have wanted to see. Obviously, Topuria and Makhachev was the fight to make. And it sucks that we're not getting John Jones and Aspinall or Topuria and Makhachev seemingly in this calendar year, because that's the fights that everybody wanted, coming in 2025. And it's kind of disappointing. I like this consolation. I will say, though, Arman Tsarukyan is the backup fighter. So, Charles Oliveira, man, if you want to take a dive, I would appreciate it.
Who was it? Who the fuck was it? If you want to get into a fight with some stairs, that'd be cool.
If you want to pull dude, I'm going to remember his name in a minute. If you want to pull a Trevin Giles.
Yeah, Trevin
pull
Giles.
a Trevin Giles. We would appreciate it, because I want to see him on Tsarukyan.
I'll call Craig for some sparring and let him kick you an up kick, and then you can fake an injury.
Or go kiss a woman after Rodolfo Bellato has. That is always an option as well. Because damn it, dude, I don't see this as a super competitive fight. There is a path to victory for Oliveira, but I don't think it's going to be able... I would be shocked if it happened, right? Because Ilia Topuria is a very, very, very good grappler. He's a black belt, man. He's won a lot of his regional fights by submission, but his cardio on the ground, if you wrestle with him with long periods of time, it will take a lot of his power, and he has admitted that he has gassed out in some of those fights. Even though he's won all of them, he says, the more I wrestle, the more tiring it is for him, the more he does gas out. He has the Greco-Roman background and the jiu-jitsu background. And Charles Oliveira is going to be the bigger man here. I think he will be somewhat physically imposing, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold down Ilia Topuria for long stretches of this fight, especially with the background Topuria has. This is where I think Charles Oliveira is absolutely going to lose. This dude, his chin is questionable. He gets dropped in almost all of his fights against all of his opponents. And if he gets caught by a clean shot of Topuria, he's going to get more than just dropped. He's going to be knocked out. Because Topuria has some of the best power in the world. He knocks out everybody he fights. He finds a way to get finishes. He gets performance bonuses. He knocks out legends. This is just what the guy does. Josh Emmett's the only guy that's been able to somehow not get knocked out by him. Well, Yusuf Zalal too, but that was his first fight in the UFC. We can pretend like the cameras weren't on for that. But Josh Emmett got rocked 3 or 4 times in that fight. He got 50-42. Ilia Topuria will find your chin. And with how much damage Oliveira has taken and how often he gets rocked, I think this is going to be quite a short fight. I think a round 1 or round 2 KO is absolutely in the picture. Charles Oliveira will have to get this fight to the ground if he has a chance of winning it. but I don't think it's going to happen. Shootbox is on a great run this year, so do it that way you will. I think they've only lost 2 fights as a gym this year. I think this will be number 3, but if you're superstitious and you want to pick Charles Oliveira based off the gym he's been representing, be my guest, but I will not be doing such. I think the line's fairly accurate, but I think there could be some value on the plus 320 for Oliveira, but give me Topuria by around 1 or 2 KO.
So I told Whit this yesterday on a phone call, a business call. There's only one way Topuria wins this fight, or there's only one way that Oliveira wins this fight. He has to catch Topuria with something. He has to knock him down, like knock him delirious, and he has to move into a submission almost immediately before Topuria regains consciousness. Because if he doesn't do that, Charles Oliveira is not a better boxer. They're probably same level grappling, same level submissions, except Topuria, if you stand and bang with him's got better cardio. So Topuria is probably 1A, the best boxer in the UFC. He could go be undefeated pro boxer if he wanted to. That's how good he is at boxing. He's very, very good at striking. Topuria is very, very good at using his chin to take shots, and Oliveira is, and that's a problem. So I think this is under 2 minutes in the first round. This fight is over with, and I got Topuria winning it. And here's what I think will happen. This is a new thing for me. I think that Topuria will win this fight by a 1.5-minute knockout in the first round. I think Islam will lose to Jack Della Maddalena. And I think that Islam will immediately go back down to this weight class and fight Topuria for the title.
I could see it. I can absolutely see it. JDM's a big, big man. But this is right here, right now. We got some big fights. Got a beautiful card ahead of us. My fight on the night prediction, as said earlier, I think will be Emil and Delgado. I also like, who else do I like to be a fight on the night? Royval and Van, I think, could also be a fight on the night contender as well. Yeah. What do you think, Kron?
For a fight of the night, I'll pick Royval and Van. And for performance of the night, I'm gonna pick Ilia Topuria, and I'm gonna pick Jacoby Smith and Ilia Topuria for performance of the night. Possibly, if Jackson McVeigh wins by first round knockout, I could see him getting a $50,000 bonus as well.
No doubt.
But that brings us to the end of UFC 317. We hope you enjoyed this fine podcast segment presented by Cronio Media. Check out all of our partners, shankitgolf.com. Use code Cronio Media at checkout for 15% off. Cowboyrevolution.com. Use code Cronio Media at checkout for 15% off. W.GG. Use code Cronio Media at checkout for 10% off. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube. Check us out on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you get your social media news. We're there. We appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.